Last week, Chat GPT5 broke the language learning industry. While everyone's asking it to write emails and explain quantum physics, a small group of language learners discovered a way to use Chat GPT5 that makes most other language learning tools now seem obsolete. For the first time in history, you can now create a language learning system that adapts to your level in real time. You know that frustrating feeling when you're studying vocabulary that just feels useless? Or reading some sort of text that is either impossibly difficult or boringly easy? Traditional language learning has always suffered from this Goldilocks problem. Like I said, you're either bored or overwhelmed, but never quite in that sweet spot where real language acquisition happens. I've spent years trying methods and apps and just about every revolutionary language learning technique out there. But when I got access to Chat GPT5 last week, I literally had to pause and rethink everything that I had known about language acquisition. Here's what most people don't realize. Previous AI models were kind of just like having a smart dictionary. Sure, they could translate and even explain pretty well, but they couldn't fully understand the nuanced little things that separated a beginner from an intermediate language learner, or colloquial speech from formal speech. So Chat GPT5 changed everything with 3 breakthrough capabilities that didn't exist literally 200 hours ago. It can now perform what feels like linguistic DNA mapping. In other words, creating a unique profile of your language learning abilities across multiple dimensions, and generates content that sits exactly in your Goldilocks zone for your perfect language learning and acquisition. So here is the 3-step system that I've created to give to my students and that they're already using to make leaps and bounds in their language learning process. Step 1 is to mine native content transcripts for words that textbooks never actually teach you. Step 2 is to generate perfectly graded flashcards that maintain the natural context of these words. Now, step 3 is to create personalized reading material that's based on the words that you've extracted. Let me show you exactly how each step works and how it wasn't possible before last week. So step 1 exploits ChatGPT5's new pattern recognition capabilities. When you feed it a transcript from, say, a Mexican cooking show, it doesn't just pull out words. It identifies which expressions are uniquely Mexican instead of Spanish, which phrases are trendy versus traditional, and which vocabulary naturally clusters together when native speakers use it. I tested identical transcripts from ChatGPT5 and some other LLM models. The old models basically just gave me a glorified frequency list, but ChatGPT5 identified 47 different filler words and discourse markers that native speakers use all the time in colloquial speech but are never represented by textbooks. It even noted which ones younger speakers tend to prefer. Okay, so step 2 leverages ChatGPT's contextual memory to create flashcards that maintain consistency over hundreds of different flashcards. Previous models, as you and I both know, would generate unusual sentences and lose track of the level that you said you were at the beginning of the conversation. But ChatGPT5 remembers exactly what level you are and continues to generate you flashcards at a level that seems so native-like that even native speakers couldn't even tell that it's AI. But here is the game changer. The new study feature inside of ChatGPT5 allows you to quiz yourself directly inside of the chat, and it can adapt in real time based on the responses that you give it. But moving on to step 3, here is where ChatGPT5 becomes almost magical for language learners. It can generate graded readers that maintain perfect vocabulary and grammar, but adhere to your current level. Previous models would just leak advanced vocabulary into beginner level stuff, and frankly, older models couldn't maintain the constraints that you gave it, otherwise known as hallucinations. Now, I'll be honest, and I know some of you already know this about me, but I don't personally do a lot of reading in my target languages, and that's just out of personal preference. But this strategy that I have tried actually might get me to do a lot more reading because the results are just so good. GPT-5 can write you a 5,000 word story using the exact vocabulary that you want it to. And then you can have it write that story at the grammar level that fits your current level. For example, a medical student who's decided to learn Spanish can now learn medical vocabulary at the grammar level that matches their Spanish speaking level. A business person learning Mandarin might need some business scenario vocabulary, but can ask it to make it at the Mandarin level that again suits them. Okay, just a sec. Here is what's blowing my mind. Some of my students that are using this strategy along with ChatGPT5 are actually reporting that their retention is better than it's ever been. But why? Well, I think it's because this strategy creates content that is so perfectly matched to your current level that Stephen Krashen's elusive I+1 theory is able to be actualized in direct studying right away. In other words, your brain spends less time fighting to decode messages and goes straight to acquiring. Okay, so let's get to the exact process of how we do this and what my students are already using to get fluent faster. Step 1 is I want you to find some YouTube videos that are titled something like "Words to Sound More Native" or "Filler words every speaker uses." Search these sort of titles in your target language. Then scroll down in the page and you'll find where it says to get the transcript. Get the transcript and then ask Chat GPT-5 to do the following. Extract and analyze the most important vocabulary for sounding natural, including filler words, discourse markers, and common collocations. Step 2 is to collect that vocabulary and then translate it into flashcards using this prompt. Create 30 closed deletion flashcards using these words, where the target word is replaced by ... Make sentences natural and conversational, providing context clues without making it too obvious. Step 3 is you're going to generate personalized reading material. Write a 1,000-word story at insert your level using primarily these vocabulary words. Make it engaging and use each target word at least 3 times in different contexts. This system creates a virtuous cycle. The same words will appear in your flashcards and in your reading, creating multiple exposures in different contexts. Your brain can't help but acquire these patterns because everything is interconnected and perfectly adapted to your level. My friends, we are witnessing the first real solution to language learning's oldest problem: finding the right input at the right time at the right level. The 3-step method that I showed you today isn't just some sort of new language learning technique. It's our first application of Chat GPT-5's new abilities to solve problems that have plagued us forever. The student who starts using this sort of technique right now has a massive advantage over the student who still doesn't even know that Chat GPT-5 exists or how to use it as a language learner. So open Chat GPT-5 right now, not some older model or other LLM. Find one YouTube video about natural speech in your target language. Grab that transcript and start with step 1. You will discover language patterns and vocabulary that previously might have taken you months to discover on your own. Now, if you want to accelerate your language learning journey with the approach that I mentioned in this video, hundreds of my students are already transforming their language learning abilities using the complete system of Fluency Formula that you can find linked down in the description. And since you clearly appreciate new language learning breakthroughs, the next video will be the perfect sidearm, the perfect companion to everything that you learned here today. Just click right here to start watching it. Go ahead, click it. Thanks so much for watching.